before you give Mr. Blumenthal too much credit, you agree he didn't write a single one of those cables or memos he sent you.
I'm sorry, what?
He didn't write a single one of those cables or memos.
I don't know who wrote them. He's the one who sent them to me.
At least on one occasion you asked Miss Abedine, can you print without any identifiers? Don't people have a right to know the source of the information so they can determine credibility?
But he wasn't, as you just said, the source of the information.
But you didn't know that, Madam Secretary, and that's what you just said.
No, Mr. Chairman. I knew that he didn't have the sources to provide that information.
I can't. It's like an Abbott and Costello routine, and she wants to be President of the United States. We're welcoming in now, folks, Jay Koss. He's staff writer of the Weekly Standard and author of What's So Bad About Cronyism. It's a new broadside from Encounter Books, broadside number 44. Hello, Jay.
Hi, how are you?
Good to talk to you. Congratulations on the book. Let me ask you, her relationship with Blumenthal and what she did, is that kind of the epitome of cronyism?
Actually, it really is. The juxtaposition in that committee hearing was, to me, very stark. That Chris Stevens, who was the security, he was the diplomat on the ground, was making security requests. He had to go through, she kept calling it process and procedures, right? He had to go through the official channels where he got jammed up. Sidney Blumenthal is a lifetime friend of Hillary Clinton's, and he had direct access to her. And so often with cronyism, that usually is just, that's the key difference, is that if you want to get in touch with your congressman, you have to go through his staff, or you might not even know how to get in touch with them. But if you're a crony, you have direct access. That can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, Jay goes into cronyism and why it's so harmful, and if you're not noticing it, you're just not looking. Pick up Encounter Broadside number 44. Let me ask you about today's poll from the New York Times CBS that for the first time has Ben Carson, or someone other than Trump, but it's Ben Carson, leading in the national race. He's got Trump by about 5 points.
Yeah, it's striking, but not a huge surprise. I mean, if you've been watching what's happening in Iowa, Carson has been had pulled ahead of Trump for a couple weeks ago, and has now, put some distance between himself and Donald Trump in Iowa. So it's not a huge surprise that this would be replicated on the national level either.
Well, okay, Iowa, so a lot of people say, a lot of evangelicals. Michael Savage earlier gave his unique take and said they're suffering from white guilt. But I mean, it is the first national poll, and really in every other state poll, Trump still leads. So aside from Iowa, I mean, this is kind of an aberration.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, it is certainly the first poll we've seen on a national level where Trump doesn't have a lead. But, we have seen pretty systematic evidence over the last couple of weeks that Carson has been on the rise, in the national polls and also in state polls. He sort of rose above Trump in Iowa a couple weeks ago, but he's been rising everywhere. And, that's probably due to, generally favorable press coverage among conservative media outlets.
My theory, Jay, if I might interrupt, my theory
Sure.
is he's done a lot of interviews. He's been out there all over the place, which, used to be only Trump. And then he went on his book tour, which people said he gave up his campaign to do his book tour. I had him here for his book the second day it was out. And we talked all politics, but he plugged the book.
Yeah.
So I think he's been out there, and he's making these statements, whether it's on Muslims or whether it's on gay marriage or no matter what it is, the media rips him to shreds. And I think that resonates with Republicans and conservatives.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that what Carson has really upped his game on is what we in the business called earned media, where he's not necessarily spending a ton of money on television advertisements, but he's going on television and he's gotten people to talk about him. Trump has really been a master at this game, and he's really outstripped everybody else in the field, at least on the Republican side. But now Carson seems to be catching up in terms of earned media, so that might be having an effect. And look, by the way, from a broader perspective, we're still, a little over 3 months until the first votes. This is still not a process where I think, your average Republican voter is fully engaged yet. So what that can mean is that their opinions on, who they favor are liable to shift over time. They can be unstable, and they can also be, a function of who they see on television that day.
30 seconds. What do you look for in the debate tomorrow?
I think all eyes are going to have to be on Jeb. I think he's got the most to lose. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he performs.
Jay, thank you again, folks. Pick up What's So Bad About Cronyism from Encounter Broadside, number 44. Thank you, Jay. Give Me 5 is next, folks. But first, remember to join me Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for exclusive Newsmax TV debate coverage. Immediately following the CNBC Republican debate, I'll be joined by Sarah Palin, Dick Morris, John Zogby, and many others. That's 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, Wednesday. Be there.